What's up guys, Coach Hayden here with Steel Strength Training. Today's video is going to be pretty brief, but it's going to be addressing a lot of questions that we've received recently, as well as some things that we've noticed just in the gym overall, and that's involving RPE, the system of RPE. We kind of need to revisit this a little bit because it's come up in different settings. So the first thing about RPE, for those of you that already know the scale, it's a way to auto-regulate to where you're not married to certain weights on the bar, you're going for certain efforts. And there are times to put your foot on the gas and there are times to put on the brakes and to ease off a little bit. But we're not really going to cover that. We're going to cover more the application of that and the mindset that goes behind RPE. First major point is to know thyself. When it comes to RPE, you don't want to kid yourself one way or the other. And there are usually two camps where this can happen. First is you are either prone to overestimate or to underestimate. For the overestimators, this is going to be you're failing lifts all the time. You're constantly having to take weight off the bar because it's too heavy. If you're noticing this, then that means, like for example, in this program, we have a lot of RP 6s and 7s on most working sets. So if you're failing half of your working sets, then that's not a good sign. So that means that you might need to ease off and rethink the way that you're using your RPE ratings. The other end of the extreme is underestimators, people who are constantly not reaching their target RPEs. And this can lead to stalls in progress. It can lead to not really feeling like you're exerting a lot of effort when you come to the gym. Or when you finally get someone like one of us, our coaches, to push you on your RPE ratings and you see that you can skyrocket past what you thought was your limit, then this is another sign that you might be an underestimator. So, how do you practice to avoid either of these extremes? If you just read these off, you probably know which one you are. So how do you avoid that? Well, first is self-control. This is more so for the overestimators. Knowing when to pull yourself back, to tell yourself, this is beyond what's prescribed. I need to think about why I'm in the gym. Because even though we're trying to get stronger, which ultimately leads to being able to lift heavier loads over time, the way to get there is not necessarily lift the heaviest loads possible every day. The methods are different than the results. We have to think about building up into that outcome and not necessarily trying to get there from the very beginning. For those who are underestimators, you probably need to exercise some patience and consistency. So with people who constantly underestimate their RPEs, they may not be quite sure of themselves or quite sure if the amount of effort that they're putting into it is appropriate. And they may not know even where their limits are. So with those people, push yourself a little bit. Try a little bit harder on your working sets, and you can see just how far you can go. And just overall, this is something else I've noticed for those who use the app. When you use your exercise history function, I've noticed what I call a feedback loop. I was actually talking with a client about this yesterday, to where if you only look at what you did in your exercise history, so what you did last week and the week before, and you don't consider in your own mind, how do I rate that set, you get into what's sort of a feedback loop to where you look at what you did last time, and let's say that you way underestimated last time. Well, then you're just going to maybe throw on the same weight on the bar, maybe a little bit heavier, but way beyond what you're capable of. And then you're just going to repeat that same pattern of underestimating to where you're losing the benefits of the RPE system. On the other side, if you're constantly overestimating, if you look back at last week, now you're going to beat yourself up because, I didn't make the weight that I got last time and I failed my set again. As you can see there, we have we want to avoid two different types of circumstances. And regardless of which type you are, you probably know which one it is, but there are lots of ways that we can avoid it. But the first one is just thinking about knowing yourself. How do you tend to lean one way or the other? And how can you practice either self-control or patience and trust in the process? And how to avoid feedback loop like this. So this is just RPE Revisited. Think about this the next time you come into the gym. Try to apply these principles and you might surprise yourself. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you guys next time.